Yeah, so what we're talking about is, and it's really a terrific training class because I help them develop their business. And a lot of times we're given things like, offer the agent something of value.
Hmm.
Don't just cold call an agent with your hand out, give
Yep.
them something of value. But new loan officers don't even know what that means. They ask me, does that mean I should get some Starbucks gift cards? Well, no, that's not something of value. Well, what should I do? Should I like help pick their kids up from school? No, you'll get arrested for
That's a
that.
little
So,
creepy, right?
yeah.
Boom. All right, welcome to another episode of the Contacts to Contracts podcast. I am Bryan Lovell, always here with my amazing co-host.
What's up, man?
Mr. John Jones.
How
What's
are
up,
you?
dude?
Not much.
What's up? So, hey, listen, we got a special guest today, hailing all the way from Atlanta, Georgia.
Rockstar branch manager from Atlanta, Georgia.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Stephen Katz. So, Stephen, thanks for joining us, man.
Sure, happy to be here.
So, John, I'll let you intro
Yeah,
what
so-
we're going to talk about here in just a second, but let me set up.
Sure.
We had Stephen on this podcast.
About a year, almost a year and a half ago, a little short of that.
Yeah. Has the world changed any?
Yeah, a little bit. Just a little bit.
So that's why we figured we would jump in. So let me quit stealing your thunder and go
Yeah,
ahead.
so we want to talk about business. Back when we had Stephen on the podcast, I think rates were probably a little bit different, right? We would
Yes.
say substantially different than what we're looking at today. So back then, want to talk about, in 2021, how did your year finish out? What did rates look like when we last spoke to you, January, I believe, of 2021? I think we were probably in the mid twos, maybe 2.75-ish.
That's exactly right. I went and looked it up, and the rates were around 2.75.
Okay, so one of the cool things that you took advantage of during that crazy time, right? Well, I'll call it crazy.
Yeah.
I know you worked a little bit longer shift than normal, right? A little bit more than 8 hours a day, maybe a little longer than 3 to 5 days a week. You really, you plugged into your database, and I just like to, share, how did that year end for you?
Well, the year ended great. It was, I think, our second or third best year ever. And we just came off of a really terrific year in 2020.
Yeah.
So, we were high-fiving and popping champagne, at that point. Now, rates are around 5%. So it's like a completely different world. And I've been through this before, but I've never seen rates move so quickly, so much.
In a 60 to 90-day period. We're
Stephen, how long have you been in the business, man?
So this will be my 29th year.
Okay. So in 29 years, he's never seen
He's never
rates
seen
go
this,
up this
yeah.
fast.
Not this fast, no. I've seen this kind of movement maybe over 6 to 9 months, but we have compressed it to where rates have gone up, like we just said, about 2% in rate in 60 days.
Yeah. It's nuts.
Yeah, the charts look like a bloodbath, just red after red after red.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like every day is just a little bit more of the same in terms of those rate markets, and it doesn't appear that there's any end in sight anyway.
Well, let's hope we've maybe leveled off a little bit.
Yeah, let's not go any higher. I think that, the level off part is what we're all looking for, a little bit of stability again.
Yeah.
Let the consumer, let everybody out there that's shopping for homes, and or if you're still looking to refi with cash out, let's let the rates settle down. So when we're having the conversation with the consumer, the next day it's not something different.
Yeah, the next day it's not different.
Week it's not something entirely different.
Hey, Stephen, so I want to ask you a couple of questions just about your business in general. So 2020, purchase versus refi, what were your percentages?
So I guess you're really asking about last year, and we were about 70% refi, 30% purchases.
Okay.
So, and in 2020, it was maybe 75-25. So really very heavy in refis, trying to service our customers and get them the savings that they deserve. Of course, today I just looked over the numbers, almost completely reversed. So now we are about 70 to 75% purchase and about 30% refis. And a lot of that is maybe some stragglers that locked in a couple months ago.
Sure.
So I'm thinking that we'll probably end up the year maybe in the 80-20 purchase.
Okay.
You know.
Hey, by chance, have you taken a look at, I know your business has shifted to purchase, but have any chance you've taken a look at, like, so far year to date versus the same time period last year? Are purchase transactions up total, like unit wise, for your location, for your branch?
So yeah, so the purchase business, the reason why we came off such historic years is that the purchase business was strong too. In the past, we had refis driven by low rates, but it was because the economy was kind of sucky and the real estate market wasn't that great. Now we had this like perfect storm of both strong purchase and strong refis. So the purchases have really remained strong, pretty steady.
Okay. So you're at a position right now with your business overall where you're shifting, right? You're shifting because of the market that we're in. And I would imagine you probably have a little bit of experience having done this before. Can you talk to us about some of the things that you're doing to help you with this shift in your business?
Yeah, so hopefully, you've continued to stay in contact with your referral partners. We have, but of course, we probably have come short in giving them, white glove treatment like we did in the past, just because of limited time and resources. But so I think you need to go back and try and reestablish or make further commitments to those relationships, and maybe even mend some fences if you haven't spoken to them in a long time. So the relationships are going to be more and more important. You've got to remind those real estate agents that we're here to serve them.
Yeah. So one of the other things I'm just kind of thinking of some questions as we're talking here.
Sure.
Because, this is 29 years experience is a long time, right? And so this probably isn't the first time you've seen a shift in your business. Obviously we've seen shifts between refi and purchase, but I'm talking about an overall volume shift. You're probably going to see maybe a 25-30% decline in your business in 2022 versus 2021. I'm just curious, are you looking at your branch right now going, hey, we've got to cut expenses, we've got to increase marketing? Like, what are some of the things that you're considering based on how the business is changing and where it's going?
That's an excellent question. So I think the knee-jerk reaction is, let's fire a third of the staff and cut back on all expenses and, try and get the P&L straightened out by lowering costs, which, of course, you have to be smart about it. I always feel like when it comes to staff, you have to go at it with a scalpel and not a hatchet. I think that as far as marketing, you have to leave those dollars there. Hopefully, if you've been in the business a while, and I mean a while by like 5 years or so, you've saved up a little bit of money, and there's a little bit in the coffers so that you can kind of double down on your marketing efforts. You have a lot of people that came into the business just for the refis.
Yes.
So, so here's what's going to happen over the next 3 to 6 months. Those places where they, have the guys on the headsets and they're basically a sweatshop of loan originators, and all their staff is paid on production. Listen, for that 6 to 9 month period, that business model is fantastic.
That's perfect. That's correct. Yeah.
If you're taking it, if you're taking in millions in business and you're paying out just a few dollars, you're going to make some money. But they don't need the skill level. The guy that's just looking to lower his interest rate, they don't need the skill level. They don't need the service level.
Correct.
And so forth. But now they're in a situation where how do we keep the doors open? Because nobody knows. I think at this point we know that this is not a head fake.
Yep.
This is not that week where rates jumped up 3/8 in rate and then they went back down.
Get back down, yeah. This is here to stay for a little bit, yeah.
Right. It's a complete environmental change.
Yep.
So you'll see, you'll see them trying to hang on, whether it's like super aggressive pricing for 60 days, or whether you'll see massive layoffs. You'll read about that in the newspaper. But so there'll be this weeding out period where basically the mortgage business will be just a little bit muddied and yucky over the next 6 months till we get back to normal, where there's a proportionate amount of loan officers to the amount of business that's going on. So I think that you have to weather the storm. A lot of loan officers at this point, they panic and they say, God, I used to close 15 loans a month, and now I'm closing 6. So it must be my company's fault. It must be my business model. And so you see like a lot of recruiting, a lot of loan officers jumping, finding that grass is greener, not willing to accept, okay, well, the measuring stick that you were using was against the greatest year ever.
Yes.
Let's look at the measuring stick over, the last 5 to 10 years. And then, so it's very, I think that there's a lot of like depression and psychiatric issues that go on at this point in time. And I mean, it is kind of funny, but it's not funny because a lot of loan officers, they get depressed because, they weren't smart about their money. They went, they bought a second home, they bought a boat, they bought a jet ski, they bought a Range Rover, and now, and they're thinking, well, hell, I'm going to make $50,000.
That was so 2005 for all of us.
That was before my time.
Yeah, we went through that.
2003, I built a wine cellar, right? Because I was going to make, I was going to make $1 gazillion for the rest of my life, right? So then, so then a little bit of that depression, because nobody likes to, take a step backwards.
Correct.
But I think it's just a question of using the wrong measuring stick.
Here's where I'm going to go with that, Stephen. So let's just talk about you being in the business 25 plus years.
Okay.
I
was rambling.
Yeah, no. So what when you say measure, but I mean, if you're a loan officer and you're normally closing in an average normal market, say 10 units a month on the purchase side, and maybe you're doing 80-20 splits, so you're doing 2 refinances, right? You're closing 12 deals. Stephen didn't abandon that the last year and a half, 2 years. He continued to close his 10 purchases.
Yes.
But he took advantage of his database that he's built up for 25 plus years.
Sure.
He still closed 10, so his business didn't change. He just closed another 25 or 30 extra refinances a month. So now he was closing 40 plus units a month during the best time in the mortgage business ever. So the important thing is, if you want to feel sanity and know where your business should be at, look back 2 or 3 years ago and measure out the purchases that you normally do month to month.
Correct.
And if you're there or growing hopefully a little bit, you're okay.
2019 could be a decent measuring stick, right? And that was why I asked Stephen the question about, is your purchase business up year over year, right? And from what he says, it sounds like he's gaining some market share in the area, he's at, and that's, that's great. I think it's funny, Stephen, you were talking about this shift in our business and like these sweatshop LOs and things like this. I was talking to some executives here at our company this week. In the last 2 weeks, we've gotten 1,400 resumes for underwriters and loan processors.
Sounds about right.
Is that when have you ever received that?
But again, the reason they all got into this business 2 years ago, 3 years ago, right, is because not everybody. We know a lot of really successful LOs that never took advantage of a refi.
Oh, yes.
So, I mean, shame on you out there. You allowed the entry for all these other companies to come in there and swoop away your customers. Yeah. That you didn't want to pick up the phone and make a little extra.
Hey, Stephen, did it take a lot to pivot your business in the last 90 days?
Well, I mean, yes and no. So some of it, the fact that it slowed down a little bit, was actually comforting. Of course, you don't want it to stay slower for any extended period of time. But so it gave me time to work on some marketing things and to kind of shore up my database. I've been working on that. That's kind of a long-term project. But I don't think that it was that drastic a pivot. I don't think it was that drastic. Because the thing is with the refi business, so we didn't really prospect for that business. We just kind of had open arms for it. So yeah, so me shooting out a group email that said, "Hey man, we should talk because rates are low." I mean, that's not like a big marketing project,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
And at the right time, that might have brought in 35 loans.
Yeah.
That email. So yeah, so it wasn't a huge pivot. It's kind of getting back to normal, really.
I got to tell you, one of the things that I hope everybody would take away from a pro like Stephen is, he had the database, right? I can't tell you how many 100%. Loan originators that we talk to that make moves between companies, and when they get to the new one,
they have nothing, or
they don't have any of their database.
Right.
Like I learned, fortunately for me, I started in the business April 2007. The company I was with went bankrupt in August, so only in 4 months. But when I made the switch to the new lender, I was only in the business 4 months when I realized I need to keep my own database, right? And so for him, he's got a huge database that when we come across a market like we just came out of again, he can cast a pretty wide net pretty fast and haul in a lot of fish.
Sure.
Right? Where those of us with a smaller database, it's a lot harder work, to get that same result.
So I think a lot of that boils down to having an entrepreneurial spirit and having the idea that you're running your own business. Yes. So, I've been at my company a long time and I'm happy here, but I still see it as a partnership, okay? So they're my customers, and then my company helps me, put the loans to the system and fund the loans and has the money and all that. But I mean, we're working together.
Correct.
It's not that I'm an employee of that company. I feel like the relationships I've built are mine. I mean, I don't know what the legal aspect is, but that's the way I feel about it.
Yeah.
And the thing is with that, so I always thought that attitude, there's always been kind of a downplay on refis. They used to teach, the purchases are going to be here forever and the refis are going to be here one day and gone the next. So if you build your business model just on refis, then they're going to be gone and you're going to be out of business. Yep. So that was in a nutshell what they would tell you. But, so that, I would ask them, so you don't worry about capturing those refis, but if the customer were to call you to get a second home loan, would you want that? Oh yeah, if they call you for second home, that means you did a good job. You get the referral, you get another loan. Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, but they're not going to call you because they went to ABC Mortgage to do that
the refi
that you weren't interested in, and then they're just going to go back to ABC Mortgage because you're 2 loans ago. They forgot who you are. So it all falls under the umbrella of servicing the customer. Doing the refi is the same as giving them advice or whatever you do to service your customer.
Yeah. So John, you and I get calls every week from loan originators that are maybe in a bit of panic is a strong word, but are nervous about the climate that we're in. Again, going back to, we've seen an increase in interest rates faster than we ever have. So I figure I'd ask Stephen, what are some things that you're doing in the market that we're in that you would do regardless of what the rate situation is?
Well, so let me answer that this way. So right now, a big initiative is I'm training some new loan officers. And what's great about that is because I'm kind of an old dog, it makes me kind of re-examine my own business, right?
Because
if I'm going to teach them how to do it, then I got to know how to do it.
Better be doing it yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I better be doing it. I better practice what I preach, right?
Yeah.
So, so what we're talking about is, and it's really a terrific training class because I help them develop their business. And a lot of times we're given things like, offer the agent something of value. Mm-hmm. Don't just cold call an agent with your hand out, give them something of value. But new loan officers don't even know what that means. They ask me, does that mean I should get some Starbucks gift cards? Well, no, that's not something of value. Well, what should I do? Should I help pick their kids up from school? No, you'll get arrested for that.
That's a little creepy, right?
Yeah.
Don't do that.
I mean, they don't have a handle. I'm like, well, give them something that's going to help their business. And then it's, okay, great idea. So what is that exactly? Because I'm not really sure what my business is, much less their business.
Yes,
Yeah, so I think that giving agents knowledge, if I can talk about maybe some tactics that people
please,
like.
please
ahead,
bring
yeah.
it, man, bring it.
Yeah, so the big thing is, agents are not very finance savvy. Most of them aren't, so they rely on us.
Yep.
So I think if you can, like with new loan officers, it's impossible to become an expert in this business because it's so complex. But if you can become an expert on one little sliver, and then you can call these agents, and instead of just saying, "Hey, how's business? Do you have any leads for me?" If I could call you up and John, I call you up on a Friday and say, "Hey, John, listen, I know you're super busy, but I just found out this one thing I wanted to tell my agents about. Did you know that on FHA loans, we only have to count 0.5% for the student loan payments? And it's really helped me get a couple of deals closed. I thought you might want it. Listen, I'm going to let you, I don't even let you talk. I'm going to let you scoot, and I'm going to be around this weekend. If you need me, we can chat later, okay?"
Yeah.
And then you're at that point going to do one of two things. You're either just going to say, "Okay," and hang up the phone, or you're going to jump in and say, "Well, let me ask you this." And then we start a conversation.
Yep.
But whatever happens, when we hang up the phone, you're left with, "Hey, that Stephen is smart and he's helpful."
Yeah.
So you call them up, you learn things, and I do it through podcasts like this fabulous Contacts to Contracts podcast that I pick up some pointers.
So what I love about that, can I interrupt you real quick? What I love about that is one more caveat, and you guys probably already do this, is that's a change, by the way, the 0.5%. So how many agents have had a buyer pre-approved by an LO that 1%, we had to say no because of the 1% that now might be able to get back in the game? So as an LO, if you're dropping that hint during that phone call too, hey, think back to anybody you might have had pre-approved in the last couple of years that we couldn't do because of the student loans, because today might be a different story.
Absolutely. So you hit them with a little snippet, and whether they may even say, "Look, I'm selling $1 million homes. I don't do FHA." Whatever. You're still there. You're helpful, and so that's how you get in. So after a few times, then they start to ask you questions, and then it leads to appointments, and then it leads to referrals.
So Stephen, let me ask you this: where are you farming to get these agents? What's your source to? Have you met these agents already face-to-face at an event, or are you just dialing for dollars through a list?
That's a great question. So I think just pulling a list and calling is a little bit of a tough hill to climb.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that, for me specifically, I've got enough transactions in the past that I'm calling the listing agents, and I'm calling, and sometimes the buyers pick their own agent, and I don't know them at all. So, I'm trying to get the most out of that deal, and especially if we had a closing with them, chances are it went smoothly, and we can chit-chat about that a little bit. For brand new loan officers, I think that they have to meet them on social media where they make comments on their posts, or they go to events. Now, with COVID being pretty much over, we've had a lot more live events.
Yep.
Just so they see their face, just so that they know, yeah, I remember meeting Bryan, and he was a nice guy. I mean, that's all they got to know.
Yeah.
And feed off of that. So it's lukewarm. It's a lukewarm lead.
All right, listen, I'm going to throw you a complete curveball. Okay.
Okay.
Are you ready? I'm going to wind up. Who's going to play quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons?
Ooh. So Marcus Mariota. So I think what the Falcons are doing is they're planning on 2023.
Okay.
And that because from my understanding is there aren't too many good quarterbacks in the draft. They made one of these crazy deals with Matt Ryan. We all like Matt Ryan, where they push out the money and then all of a sudden they get hit with $50 million on their salary cap.
Yeah.
So that
and that puts you in a bad place. Hey, John, just out of curiosity, who's going to play quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
I think Guy named Tom.
Some guy named Tom.
We hope it's still a guy named Tom, but we never know.
All right, just having a little bit of fun.
Hey,
with you,
Stephen, back to you and the rookies, which is really a cool thing. So we look back, and when we all started in the business, Bryan, you were a little bit after us, but back in the '90s, probably for Stephen and I, we were kind of given we didn't need a license back then, right? We were just like, hey, here's your desk over there, your forms are down the hall there, and good luck to you. So kudos to you, Stephen. I know you're mentoring the rookies, and I think that's absolutely, if you're a rookie in this business or newer in this business, you see it all the time on the chat groups. Hey, broker, lender, who's better? Yeah. The important thing is to find a company, a leader, a mentor that's going to help answer your questions and put a plan together for you to maximize your chance. When I say chance, not everybody's successful in real estate and or mortgage. Mm-hmm. You need to have that great mentor that hopefully gets you across to that level where you become successful. And Stephen, you do a weekly Friday call up there in the Atlanta area with the rookies, and I know you have a plan where you specifically spell out like each day, Monday through Friday, some activities that they should be doing, as far as getting in front of agents and hopefully generating some referrals. You just share with us some of those things.
Yeah, sure. And actually, I get just as much joy when they get a deal as when I get one myself.
Absolutely, yeah.
But so one of the things that I'm big on is structure and having a specific regiment. And so we call this the Power Hour. And I've given them permission this month. Let's do a half hour. Okay, so we pick a group each day. So the first day would be maybe our TBV customers that we follow up on, make sure that they know what's going on in the rate so they don't have a panic attack.
Boom.
The next day are the agents that we're working with. The next day are agents that we're not currently working with, but wish that we were. The third day, it depends on who they are, but maybe an affinity group, or they're touching base with their Facebook friends. Mm-hmm. If you've been in the business a while, then it would be your past customer list. And the main thing is I want them to pick a time and say, okay, I'm going to do this at 11 a.m. every single day so that, it's on the calendar.
It's routine,
and they get, because a lot of times what we do, and I'm victim to this too, is we get caught up in the day and we know we need to make that list of prospecting calls. Yep. We may have even got the list ready to call, but because there's problem after problem with a loan or something comes up, the day gets away from us, and then it's like 9 o'clock at night. You're like, I'll just call everybody tomorrow. I do the same thing with working out, if you can guess by looking at me. But so by scheduling this time, then even if you have to move the time slot, it's fine. But by having it on the calendar, you're more likely to do it.
100%.
Yep.
100%. All right, Stephen, we don't have much more time here. And so one of the things we wanted to take an opportunity to ask you is, recently, we all know you're a huge fan of Gary Vee. All right.
I am.
So don't drop any F-bombs, okay, on the podcast. Okay. But we all know that you're a huge fan of Gary Vee, and he recently had a book come out. And as somebody who's passionate about following Gary Vee and that book, you hosted a book club to anybody who was welcome. Like, why?
And I actually bought them all the books too.
Wow.
That's how desperate I was to get people to show up.
Wow, there you go. Why would you do something like that, man?
So, I thought, I really like his message. He talks about high EQ, and how important that is. That's your emotional intelligence. That's being able to deal with your coworkers and your customers. And, empathy and kindness is so important. It's like kindness is so rare that it's like a secret weapon, which is kind of sad, but at the same time, I mean, you've got people. I have a loan officer. Both of you are kind, but I have a loan officer, in South Atlanta, and she is so kind that people will crawl over broken glass to work with her.
Yes.
But so we never actually talk about that. We say it. Yeah, and you're like shaking your head because, it's something that everybody agrees on. But so having these little 30-minute discussions about these things, really got people to open up, and I found that people really responded. It really worked out well.
Yeah, I think too. You do the format like you were doing a chapter basically a week, and I think that that's an easier pill for somebody who's not necessarily a reader. Like that's an easy pill to say, hey man, you only got to read one chapter a week,
not 3 to 5.
Versus swallowing the whole thing all at one time. So I think it's easier to get people plugged into something like that when it's not, a big undertaking, so to speak. But dude, kudos for you for adding value to other people and investing in other people's lives.
Yeah, and what's great is I got to meet a lot of people. I had the most enjoyable. We call it the fly-in. I had the most enjoyable company trip I ever had because so many people that I recognized that were on the calls and so forth that I didn't know. I mean, I'm not going to know a processor in Utah.
Sure, yeah.
But,
awesome.
Hearing about, her and her kids or whatever on one of these calls, it was really super enjoyable.
Yeah, that's great. All right, man. Hey, listen, we're out of time, but before we go, is there anything that we should have or you would have liked us to ask about what's going on in the business and the market today we didn't get to?
So, a couple of things that come to mind real quick. I'll try and talk fast. So I think that there's a definite need to push loans all the way through as TBDs.
Boom.
I work in a market that the loans are high quality. I mean, 9 out of 10, my average credit score I pull is 750, okay? Now on the other side, on the other side, they want me to work for 9 basis points.
Yes.
So pros and cons there. But here's the thing. To compete with those all cash offers, you need to go ahead and push those all the way to get a loan commitment. That also means that it's going to be double the work on your staff to get these done.
Yes.
That's the market that we're in. And
Yep.
the other thing is, and I was kind of serious before because I talked to a lot of my friends that are loan officers that are kind of down in the dumps. And hey, this is part of the regular business cycle.
Yes. Yep.
I feel like we're creating the 2023 refi boom.
Yes.
And, and maybe it be 2024, or maybe it won't really come, but that's okay. So this is part of the business. This is you have to enjoy the process.
Yes.
If you hate the process and are doing it just to get a paycheck, then now's the time to do something else.
Yeah, Stephen, that's a great point. That's a great point. Now more than ever to really work and maintain your database.
Yeah.
Because the refi opportunity, whether it's next year or in the next 2 to 3 years, we all feel that if that R happens, to us again, that we'll have an opportunity to circle back and refinance not only everybody that we've closed in the last 6 months, but probably several folks that we closed 2 years ago.
Yes.
With the equity buildup in some of these properties, and look, people flat out want to do home improvements and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Buying those second homes, the dip in rates is going to open the market up again. So start taking name and number.
Yeah.
Right. The higher rates today create refis.
Yep.
We also see high rental returns that create investor business. I mean, I get calls for investor loans like crazy.
Yeah.
And then the higher equity creates cash out refi. There's always something in our business.
Yeah.
I mean, I think our business completely changes about every 2 years.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Like, and we can cut this out if you don't like me sharing this story. But I remember when you and I first started really working closer together in say 2019ish. You were a little burnt out on where the business was at. Like you were like, dude, I'm tired of grinding. Like I've been doing this for 25 years. Why do I got to keep grinding? Why do I got to keep grinding? And then boom, the market changed and you were like, this is the best job ever. And right now, right now you still have that mentality of this is a great business.
Yeah. And kudos to Stephen though, because out of everybody I saw over Facebook chat groups, and plenty of us worked hard during those 2 years.
Yeah.
You worked 7 days a week. You were in every day, all the time, Saturdays, Sundays, making calls, getting back with people.
Sometimes
you took the maximum opportunity that was there and ran with it. So,
sometimes he'd send me pictures of his wife bringing him takeout at dinner, and he's still in his office at 9 o'clock at night. So.
I mean, I feed off that adrenaline. So then it gave me a new lease on life. So, I mean, what can I tell you? This business has been, like the best, the worst, and everything in between, right?
Yes. Yep. Agreed.
But, okay, well, Listen,
Nice
I
job,
really
man.
enjoyed it. Check back anytime. Anytime you're in Atlanta,
Yeah,
stop on by.
we'd love
We'll be up for a
we'd
visit.
love
Hey,
to see
good
you.
luck in the playoffs.
Yeah, for the Hawks. You're talking about the Hawks, right?
Oh,
Because
can we switch and talk about the Georgia Bulldogs?
Go
All
Dogs.
right, that'll be the next show. The next show, we're talking about Georgia versus Florida.
All right.
cool.
No,
So I'll close
All right,
this.
see you guys.
Hey,
Thanks
you
again, Stephen.
Hey, so thanks for checking out another episode of the Context to Contracts podcast. On behalf of Stephen, John, I'm Bryan, and if there's anything that you need, we're always here to serve.